What's up, everybody? My name's Indy, and that guy way over there, that is Jay, and this is Indie Game Business, and we have a special guest today, Nav Gupta, and we've also got some new branding if you haven't had a chance to check it out.
Yes!
Done from the amazing Mr. Roleplay with Friends, my partner with Twitch Throwdown, Bradley. So look at this branding.
Killed it.
It looks freaking beautiful. How's it going now?
Wait, we're not in the arcade anymore.
We will be in this. I see what happened. Yeah.
Oh,
we will be in the arcade.
Like it is too. So it's. I was just curious. So yeah, now welcome. And we've got this is like a big show because we've not only got all the new rebranding and Bradley, if you're listening, I have received multiple compliments from the industry in general about how sweet everything looks and the new logos and all that sort of stuff. So if you need graphics and logos and all this stuff for your stream, talk to Bradley. Roleplay with Friends. He's on our Discord as well. He's Indy's partner in crime over at Twitch Throwdown, which Nav, you're part of Twitch Throwdown too, correct?
Yes,
I am. I am.
We are taking over the world, man. We're freaking we're taking over Twitch and taking over the world. That's the goal here.
So Indy, speaking of taking over the world,
yeah?
How's your subathon? Did you hit your goal?
I did not hit my goal. Not yet.
Is it over?
I do a subathon every Friday.
Oh, okay.
It's never over. So Twitch, basically they said that I could get some front page time on my channel if one of the requirements is that I need to hit 200 non-gifted subs within a 30-day period. So if it doesn't happen this month, I'll just keep trucking and we'll try and hit it again next month.
So all you're gonna do is within a 30-day period. It's not like they said you got to have 200 subs by Saturday, right?
No, it has to be within a 30-day period, and then so I'm just working for it, just goals. That's all I can say is goals.
Yes, squad goals. Or is that already out of fashion? So, the other big news that we've got, and we haven't even formally announced this yet, but we are in fact doing the long-awaited, long-talked-about online business conference for indie devs. This is something that builds out of the same frustration that I have that led to this show, in the fact that a lot of the knowledge that's out there that we take for granted, you can't get anywhere, you can't learn, and Elsa is contributing with her snoring over there. The same holds true for these meetings. Developers need to be able to meet the publishers and the PR companies and the influencers and all these different, groups that are out there, and it's expensive. I just booked flights to San Francisco for GDC, and it's like you're talking thousands of dollars. Hotels around the Moscone Center, 3-star hotels are going for $350 a night. It's getting ridiculous. So, we sat down, we talked to a lot of developers. We said, what do you need? What do you want? What are you looking for? And we've put together, the first indie game business micro conference, which is, wonderful creativity on my side to get it in there.
Is that a new headset, Jay? Not to just totally cut in. Is that a new headset?
Is this a new headset?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you just pull the microphone out? Dunk.
I don't know if I can or not. No, it's like attached.
Okay.
You might take
I wish I could. That's why I've got it curled back. So, but
all right, sorry.
Along those lines, I did solve the problem with the blue microphone because the microphone was not the issue. It was the headset. So the headset's in the trash. We're done with that now. So anyway, we've got early bird pricing on the conference for a mere $85. You get access to the meeting system. It's the same meeting system that's used by DevCom, which happens over at Gamescom, Nordic Game Conference, a good 10, 20 other game conferences out there. So
awesome.
It's well known. You don't need to know anyone when you go. That's one of the questions. It's like, well, what if I don't know who to meet with? Well, that's what it's for. So you'll log into the system. It'll give you a list of everyone else who is attending. And hold on one second. There we go. Wake her up.
Would you just throw something next to her? She's like, I honestly,
and she looked at me like, "What the hell?"
We can hear the snoring. So
so you'll be able to see everyone that's at the conference, and who they are, what they have to offer, and what they're looking for. So it makes it really easy for you to say, "Okay, I have an indie game. I need help, getting funding for, or I need help to release it on the Switch." You can go and literally sort by the companies that are publishing games on Switch and send meeting invites to them. So, that's the gist of what we're doing. If you just go to indiegame.business, it'll take you right to the link and get your tickets, and you can be all set up. It's going to be the 15th and 16th of April. We're doing it for 2 days. You don't have to get a hotel. You don't have to fly anywhere. You just need your laptop and a headphones. When you click your meeting, it pops up a video conference, and you're good to go. So you really don't even need pants. You just need a laptop.
Well, hopefully you have pants.
Well, pants are optional. It's that kind of conference. So anyway,
Jay,
so
I'd actually like to say, you know what, I can actually attest to that. I've been to Seattle. I've actually flown out from Toronto, and the hotel prices and everything, and then on top of that, you just need one connection. That's it. I mean, $85 is nothing. It's pennies compared to one connection that can generate you thousands and thousands or more in business. You know what I mean? So yeah, absolutely. It was no brainer for me, but I definitely recommend it as well.
See, and now we have validation too. So now, with that, man, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
We've seen the work that you do over on your stream, which I think Indy's got a link to your stream as well. But tell us, this is always my favorite question, how did you get into the game industry, and walk us through, what you've done, your career so far?
Sure. Well, I've been pretty much in the ups and downs of the industry. I mean, I've been coding since I was 10 years old. Got my first computer, and back in those days, computers, desktops, you could press a button and you can make it go from 33 megahertz to 66 megahertz. All right, that was how you overclocked it. Okay, and so I mean, back in those days, DOS was a thing, and I found this program called QBasic and a game called Nibbles on it from Microsoft, and that's when that whole thing sparked. When I learned that I could edit levels and change things, and then start programming stuff, and I had a million lives if I wanted to. And, I started getting right into it. And then, you fast forward now, good 20 plus, 30 plus, well, no, 20 something years later. And yeah, you guys know my age. Anyways,
None of us are
kids
young.
later. Yeah, three kids. But basically the point is now, I've been through a lot of ups and downs in the industry, from, points where I was making, well over 5 figures a month to literally $50 a month. All right. It's been up and down. I've seen markets, rise. I've seen markets shut down, and, complete revenue streams thrown out the window, just because, we're relying on so much on these markets, and it really does become a challenge. And so I personally have made, probably myself, I've made well over hundreds or 1,000 plus games, but, actually launched was over 70 plus games and apps in over 10 plus markets, including Apple iOS, Amazon, Google Play, Barnes and Noble while they were alive, BlackBerry. I'm on Steam. I'm on, and there's several others. Side Me. You name the markets. I've probably been on all of them.
Do you think you could put a link in the chat of let's say what you feel your most successful games are? What do you got on Steam? What kind of mobile games?
Well, actually, Steam it was a great lesson. It started off as a Kickstarter. It went on to, greenlight on Steam. It was a game called Armies of Riddle. It was the card game. And so that one, it completely failed. It actually failed. It wasn't as successful as I thought it would be. And many people think that when you go greenlight, you're going to be like an instant millionaire, but total opposite happened, right? And, now I'm actually creating Armies of Riddle EX, a completely different variant on it. It's a MMORPG, and now I'm actually using all the stuff that I've learned over the years for it. And that's a Steam game. On the mobile side, I've had success in different markets. My most successful market was Barnes & Noble Nook before they died. All right. And I would actually, just that one market alone would bring me about $5-6 grand a month. Right. And it hurt when it just, boom, completely shut down. That's it's gone. right? And so it really messes with you when you do that. Now, on the iOS side, I've taken down a big portion of my portfolio because I was really hell bent on the AR scene. I've got about 6 augmented reality games there. And I've also got Action Racing 3D. That was one of my most popular ones, which had well over 1 to 2 million downloads over the years. And it's also available in all different types of markets. And it's basically a racing game. So people do like, these racing games that are fast and quick. But I learned a lot of lessons there, as I was, telling Jay before. Just because you've got millions of downloads doesn't mean that you've got millions of players, and that too sticky players. I'm talking about people who are like, daily active users, monthly active users who are generating revenues for you, right? So, I would rather have 1,000 daily active users than to have 1 million downloads, right? And so people who are new to this don't understand that, and they don't understand why that actually makes sense, right? And it does. I mean, until you've actually experienced a loss of users, like, hey, I hit 1 million users and I was like, yay, rah, 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 I'm going to be rich, right? And boom, they downloaded my app, played it for 5 minutes, uninstalled it. It hits you really, really hard when you realize that if you're just going with the industry just to make a quick buck, right? Because everyone's like, hey, this is the latest, do this, ads everywhere. And you forget about, making a great game and focusing on your end users the most and making, a great experience, then you're not going to have sticky players and you're not going to make that revenue consistently. You may make it for like a moment, but then it's gone. And that's not a stable business at the end of the day. So hopefully that gives you a bit of background about me.
No, and there are multiple points in there that, we like to talk about too. One is the value of finding that niche, and that's, like you said, Barnes and Noble. I doubt anyone, listening to us right now would have said, okay, out of Steam and Apple and Google Play and all these other stores, the one that he was generating the most money from was the Nook. Because you absolutely don't, and it's like, we did very well back in my agent days when we worked with, Paradox, basically. And this was when they, I did the deal that released the first Europa Universalis and the sequel here in the States, and everybody looked at it and went, nobody is going to play this. And we're like, not everybody's going to play this, but the people that do play it are going to be absolutely thoroughly engaged, and they're going to keep coming back. And that's the reality. That's the reason we see so many of these big publishers like EA jumping up and down going, well, nobody plays single player RPGs anymore. Yeah, they do. You just don't want to fund one because it's not going to sell, 20, 30 million units. There is a very, high rate of return when you do something well in a very passionate niche. So yeah, we're right with you on that one. And failing. That one of my favorite Disney movies that's completely underrated and doesn't get nearly as much, rerun time as, Moana or Frozen is Meet the Robinsons. And the whole thing in that movie is you don't learn anything when you succeed. You have to fail. And they say the family in that is a bunch of, for those of you who haven't seen it, it's a bunch of inventors. The whole family is inventors. It's a huge extended family. And when somebody creates something and it fails, they celebrate it. It's like, oh, you made something that works, whatever. You made something that failed. Yes, because now you learned something. And so that is part of the reason why we're here, to help you learn and fail less. But the thing is, you need to fail, because you're not gonna learn anything if you don't.
Oh, so, absolutely, I agree with you 100% on that one.
So we're going to be talking today about App Store optimization, and we're going to use that term loosely because App Store optimization also applies to your Steam page and your Itch.io page and all of these other platforms. But so what is App Store optimization? Let's start at the very most basic level.
Sure. So basically, back in the day, with the search engine, so, everyone who's ever been in the search engine industry before with Google, you were able to take like a website and give it a title and a few keywords inside of that title, And then if people went on Google search and they typed in those keywords, they'd be able to kind of find it. And then as Google kept on upgrading their, search engine parameters, it made it a little bit harder and harder to do. And so you were looking at like things like page rank and so on. And so from that world is where this all came, because now when you went into the app stores, in the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store, at the very beginning, you could actually just have keywords in your titles and people would find your game or app. And so it was like, whoa, you're already part of the first top 50 if you did certain things. And then, we went through the whole motion. So it started off with, you could add one keyword. Then people started keyword stuffing. Like, we're going to say, okay, angry thrones, games of whatever, you know what I mean? Like we put in every keyword possible as the title of the game, right? And then things got even more creative as the search engines got really, really different. So Google Play's search said, okay, we're not just going to search the title, we're going to search description. So then people start saying, okay, now let's add 5 keywords of the main keyword inside your Google description, right? For your Google Play game or app, right? So we would do that. Then afterwards, Apple has like 100 keywords. And so we learned all the different techniques of like, hey, you know what? Don't put any spaces, just use commas. And as long as you do that, you've got 100 characters. And then boom, Apple changed their algorithms, right? So it was basically as these algorithms changed, everyone was kind of like trying to be on top of it to keep up in those top rankings, right? And so some of the interesting things, and I'll go over some of them now. In today's day and age, they don't work the way they used to because the algorithms now completely different. Everything has changed. You've got over 1,000 games launching every day, and what really is the biggest factor now is not specifically just having good ASO, but out of the 1,000 games that are launching, how many of these are multi-million-dollar companies who've got $1 million plus marketing budget? You know what I mean? Compared to you're an indie developer, you're going out there, you don't have that big of a marketing budget. You've got maybe $100, $500. What are you going to do with that when someone's got $100,000 and that they're dropping tomorrow or today on that same launch
every day,
right? Every day, right? So it's like you really need to get creative in today's age. ASO is no longer just like, oh, the end all and be all. It is just part of your whole entire marketing mix. You still need to do it, right? You still need to have good keywords, good screenshots and titles, and I'll go into that as well, so that I've got a good acronym that allows you to remember it. But the point is, it's no longer the main thing, right? You know what I mean? So hopefully that was a bit of an idea.
No, it is, and that's exactly in a nutshell what the problem is. The core problem is there are so many companies that can throw hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars a day into user acquisition that, if you're not launching with, some expertise
user base or something. Yeah.
I mean, you've got to be able to bring those people in or you're not going to, and so you can't compete on money, so you have to compete on, focusing in and finding your niche and finding your players and going from that point. So, you beat me to the punch here because you cleared through about 4 of my questions. But all right, so we talked about why it's necessary.
Yeah.
How it's changed. So it used to be, because I remember that, it was years ago you had games that were all named some variation of another name, and
probably some of them are mine, who knows.
Well, so Vedran, who was on our show a couple of months ago, we worked together on a lot of projects, and and I cannot remember what the name was, but he sent me an email one day and he said, I have discovered the ultimate name for a game. And it basically just built off of, it was like 6 or 7 words long, but it was basically keywords. And I was just laughing because at the time, that's exactly right. It would have been perfect for SEO. I mean, and ASO. But, now it takes more, and you've got to, and you got to be genuine too, because they have no problem ripping your game right off the page if it looks like you're just completely ripping something else off. So so how has it changed? All right, so let's go to your acronym. I've got the link to, so I'm gonna scroll up and find it, the link to the infograph that you sent us.
It's called tricks, ASO tricks. So people are looking for all the different tricks. That's how I came up with it, right? And so always, if you remember, it's called ASO tricks, App Store Optimization Tricks. And so tricks stands for T, title, R, reviews, I is icon, C is customer, K is keywords, and S is screenshots and videos. So that's
So break
basically
that
what it's
down.
all
All right.
about.
So title. I mean, let's go through each one of those.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah.
How do you optimize and how do you plan for each one of those points?
Right. So with the title, basically, not as much today. It's not as important, but it is still important. In today's age and going forward, I would recommend having a title that your users recognize. Right. Of course, the shorter the better in general. Because back in the previous, I'd say pre ASO, could actually like ASO really was a factor, like a big factor. You could actually keyword hijack. Like I had a race game called Car Race Car. I mean, to give you an idea of how much I stuffed that title, right? You have the word car 3 times in the title. All right, so I mean, don't do that. Okay, that won't work anymore. But the point is, have a title that your users recognize, right? And something that actually matches what you're doing. So, for example, if you do have a calculator, then please have that as your title. Like, listen, this is a calculator, right? Make sure it's not confusing. If you're going to say, well, hey, you know what? I've got a calculator, but I'm just going to call it something completely different, right? Like electronic digital device or something. You know what I mean? Like, don't confuse it just because you're trying to stuff some keywords in. In today's day and age, have something that your actual user base is going to recognize, all right, inside the title. And that's also going to help avoid rejections on the Apple App Store. All right, so keep that in mind because Apple takes their stuff very seriously. They are they are the standard pretty much when it comes to approvals, right? And so, thankfully they've reduced it down to about 24 to 48 hours, but, they still check, right? So if you've got a junk title that, they can clearly see that you've just tried to hijack, okay? They will reject it, all right? And then on top of that, your users, it'll just be bad for them because they won't be able to find you, right? And secondly, with your title, don't make it confusing. So even if you have like this cool little title idea, don't be fancy with it, right? Like I mean, I've done the fancy, so I'm not just talking, just like, oh, these are hypotheticals. I've done some of these mistakes. So just to be honest, right? Like I had one called flashcards exclamation mark. Okay, seriously, all right. And so I'm like, yeah, my app's cards. They'll type in flashcards, but they wouldn't find my app. They find someone else's that was called flashcards, but mine had an exclamation mark on it. And then afterwards, well, it wasn't ranking well, so I went and I changed it to period and number sign. Right? Like I had like different things, and luckily I didn't get rejected in those days. But then afterwards, it pretty much didn't work out, and I took it down. But the point is, don't make it confusing for your users. Keep a title that people will recognize, and it's part of your marketing mix there. The next one is reviews. This was an interesting one because you want to get honest reviews, but you have to kind of watch how they're done. There's many ways that you can get reviews, and I've done every way you could possibly imagine. And I've also heard of some of the other stories where you've got review houses where people will have like 5,000 devices and they would all go in and give you like a 5-star. Yeah, they're gonna catch that in 2 seconds. So don't try it. Just get some real honest reviews, right? If you've got a beta test going on with your game, get your beta users to go in and describe it. Get real people. That's the biggest key there. And keep it real. I mean, the best reviews actually for me are not just 5 stars, but ones that are factual to what I can do. Like, how can I make the game better? How can I make the app better? You know what I mean? Is there something wrong inside of it, right? Let me know. Saying it's completely great, I love that. And saying it sucks, I also don't like. In each situation, I don't know what is really good or really bad about my game, if that makes sense, right? So if you can get real world reviews, I would recommend that highly because it will help you out, not just making a better game or app and user experience, but also in your rankings. But yeah, if you're going to go through reviews, understand that generally better reviews do get ranked, but it's not as big as it used to be, right? If that makes sense.
So how do
you? Yeah, go ahead.
So how do you go about getting those reviews? Because that's always the challenge. So when you're releasing something new to Steam or Google or Apple, how do you actually go about getting your reviews?
So there's several different methods. I mean, I found the contest method has worked. Where I will have a contest
Gentlemen,
sort
I'll
of
be right
thing,
back.
but it's not as accurate. So keep that in mind when you're actually doing a contest. Like, on Touch Arcade, for example, you can actually go and do a contest for like a $15 iTunes gift card, right? But everyone has like an equal, chance of winning it. But then, are they really reviewing your game or app, or are they just doing it just because they might get a prize, right? And that is a gray area of doing it. The best way would actually be to actually go out to your market. So, for example, if you've got an FPS shooter game, well, where would people who love shooter games go, right? Go and actually, market to them and say, hey, listen, I've got this game. Go and check it out, and have them review it. Another method is actually in-app. So, hey, you know what? After they've played your game about 2, 3 times, have a little review, pop up and say, hey, are you liking my game? Right? Boom. Let me know, right? That always helps, right? Having those things in, but try and do it organically, rather than, hey, you know what? I'm going to buy these reviews or do some other things to get the reviews. Hopefully that makes sense.
So what is your, and this is me just asking a genuine question because I'm
Sure.
curious. What is the usual conversion of people who are playing the game, and then, like you said, after a couple of sessions, they get the pop up that says, "Hey, will you come review us?" Because I mean, I'll be blunt. 9 times out of 10, I go,
Oh, it sucks.
"I'm
No,
not
no, it's
going
horrible.
to do that."
Yeah, no, but that's the key point. There is, out of maybe 100 pop-ups like that, you might get 1 or 2 reviews.
Okay.
Right? Yeah, so I mean, it's a 1 to 2% ratio, but it's just like any form of marketing in general, like advertising and stuff. Your goal is to get these honest reviews, much more, because they actually hold a lot more weight, right? When Apple starts seeing, or any of these companies start seeing that, hey, this guy or person, guy or girl, has been reviewing several apps and they're completely different, right? It starts sending some red flags, right? And I've seen reviews taken off my page because Apple got those as spammers, right? Even though they may have been regular people, but because they saw them, hey, reviewing this game and that game, and all the reviews were pretty much the same, right? Apple actually took those reviews off of the app. So you're better off getting actual people who are like, they're really your players, they're really part of your community and brand, and even if it is taking a little bit longer, that will give you a better thing. And the reason why we see these other companies who've got like 1,000 reviews in a day and stuff is they've got bigger marketing budgets. They've got bigger pull. They've got, bigger stuff in the industry, right? They've got previous games and titles. They've got mailing lists. Like, mailing list is huge, right? Make sure you've got a mailing list of your players, right? And say,
Yeah.
hey, you know what? I'm launching my game. Go and check it out. I'd be so grateful if you left a review, right? You got to grow a base, to be honest, is what it comes down to.
Yeah, and that's key. I mean, in today's market, so much gets put out ahead of simple email, and everybody's like, "Oh, email marketing is dead." No, it's not.
It's not.
It's absolutely not. Why do you think Twitter is valued at what Twitter's? It's not because they have great content and it's a well-run company. It's because they have a shit ton of users. And that same mentality applies
That's
to your
it.
email list. I mean, you don't want, if it's a bunch of fluff, it's not going to work. And I'll give you a prime example. So I finally got around to launching a separate Facebook page for the show. And so now, actually, we don't even have a Facebook icon. We do have a Facebook page for Indie Game Business now. And, when you set up a page on Facebook, whether it's for a company or a product or whatever, you always get that invite your friends to like it. That does me no good, because the majority of my friends on Facebook are my real life friends. They don't give a crap about what's going on the business side of the industry. So, I have to go through and selectively.
I just did that yesterday.
Bradley, yes. And for those of you listening at home, Roleplay of Friends is now live and in the chat, and he is the one responsible for our awesome new branding.
And he's got a little star next to his name.
Yes. So, it's one of those things that you have to make sure that your list is accurate. Another example. So, I was talking to some good friends of mine yesterday, who run a PR company. And, you know, I was talking about how can we do PR for this new conference, and you know, I got a very blunt. They're like, sorry for being negative, and I'm like, no. This email is not negative. This email is perfect. You know, what they said was our mailing list and the people that we send things to on the PR side are consumers. You know, this is a PR group that works for developers, you know, and they need to get their games in front of consumers that are going to play the game. They said, we're not going to be a good partner for you because you need a business to business. And even if we did, you know, send it out, you know, send out your press release to our mailing list, it would end up costing us more in unsubscribes than it would be, you know, a benefit for any of us. And that is 100% true. You know, and I greatly appreciate when people are honest like that. But you know, you need to have that mailing list and you need to have that user list, but you need to make sure that they're legitimate, you know, as well.
Yeah. Absolutely, I agree. And you know, to that point, you know, having that right user group, that right base, it can literally mean the difference between success and failure. A good example of that is, you know, World of Warcraft, you know, and the whole Blizzard stuff. Now, I'm not talking about what's going on with them right now, but the whole point is, you know, Hearthstone, the reason why it did so well, in my opinion, because I was creating a card game at that time because of the whole hype, but the reason why it got all that hype was because they had a massive user base of WoW players, right? And so it's like, dude, if they just put out anything, it would have been successful, right? Pretty much, right? It's like instantly they were able to get millions of players because people are like, oh, World of Warcraft, they've got a new card game, let's go try it. And so, you know, that's the biggest key there is if you've got a user base, then that is going to be huge, right? And that is what I would actually recommend anybody do, rather than, you know, just if you don't have $1 million marketing budget, right? Go out there and make sure that you're building a user base before you launch your game, before you launch your app, and just say, hey, you know what? If you need to take 6 months to do that or a year to do that, you're may be better off doing that and building that solid user base of, let's say, 1,000, 2,000 players in 1 year than to go out there with nothing and think that you're going to compete against, you know, 1,000 other games in the market that are launching that day, who've got some of them who have like hundreds of $1,000s worth of budget, you know?
Well, I know it's like a content creator and gamer. I mean, I get a ton of emails about check out this game, look at this game from PR companies and whatnot. And honestly, if I open up every single one of them and look at it, most of them I may just ignore, but every once in a while I'll be like, oh yeah, this game right here, bam. And you know, and that happens multiple times a week, you know, where I maybe I'll get 30 that I don't look at, and then maybe 3 that I actually, you know, click on and go a little bit deeper. But really, if it's interesting, or if it's from some place that I know where it's from, you know, I'm more apt to like, well, I don't know, because I've got some stuff. Someone would be like, check out this game of blah blah blah, what this game is, and I'll be like, oh, I'll have a look. But if it's someplace that I know that I always get emails from, I tend to open those all the time, regardless of to say maybe I'll like this game, maybe I won't, but I'll still check it out. Yeah, it's there, even though you don't. It's not like something that you're aware of. It just is. It's just like your mind goes, oh, I'm familiar with it.
Yeah.
So I've got a question then, Andy. What, aside from the relationship side, you know, and you knowing where something is coming from, what gets you to open that email?
If it's something that if the subject is into me, you know, if I'm like, oh, it's this type of game, you know, like if like the kind of games that, you know, the kind of games I'm playing right now, like Atlas, Arc, they're things. My mind right now goes, oh, I wonder if I can role play in this game, and then I check it out. It's a new survival something, and yeah, I'll check it out. Or if it's like an exciting indie game,
a good subject line would be like, I know you like Atlas. Here's another game you can role play in.
For me specifically, I would be like, yeah, but
because I mean, this is.
I would probably open that email.
It's always a challenge.
I would probably open that email, but I mean that like role playing is a very niche thing of gaming. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
is a
very
niche thing
niche.
of gaming, but it is a huge market.
Right. If you look at like all the people playing Atlas, well, I guess Atlas has actually gotten more people into role playing because I've seen a lot of people that never role played before. I've seen them role play in Atlas.
Yeah.
But like for Arc for example, if you were like out of 100 players that are playing, there's probably like 3 that are role playing. So it is super niche. But yeah, if there's something like, oh, you can role play in it, like Arc or Atlas, I'd be like, okay, I would totally click on that. Because there's not very many games that are made for role playing in, which there needs to be more. People needs to make they need to make games. This is made for role playing in, and that's what I want. Good VoIP, plenty of interaction, bunch of stupid things that you can do like wave and that kind of stuff.
Like Fallout 76, except and again, I still love that game. I haven't been playing it as much as I was because I got hooked this week on Apex Legends, but
oh, nice.
I
don't know if Fallout 76 is so good for role playing in. Because when I role play, it's like you could spend 3 hours just standing around talking. It's some people like to go out and do missions and whatever, but I'm not about that. I mean, I think building is neat, but I don't care about building. I don't care about doing things. I just want to interact with people.
Our whole episode here, but I'm going to say, but you can do that in Fallout 76. It has area-based voice. So same things that I see you doing in Atlas and Arc when I watch, you can still do.
Maybe. I mean, some people like Fallout 76. I played it for a bit. I didn't really.
I think it's an acquired taste.
Yeah.
I just got God of War yesterday. I'm more of the story type of role player. I love the stories. And so like God of War, I got the latest one for PS4 and I just love what they've done with it. It's incredible.
Yeah, but that's completely different type of role play. I'm talking like role play.
It's a different. Yeah,
it's completely. Story. I'm talking about where like you could just stand and talk with people. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know what? I love God of War. The mechanics feel so good. The first God of War, the mechanics, just like when he swings that thing around, God, it felt so good. I haven't played the new one, but
man, you feel it. For me, that's the sort of games I love playing and I making too. You know what I mean? That's the type of stuff I would love to make, and so. But once again, like you said, right? Everybody has their niche, and you got to find that. You got to find that tribe of yours or that group of yours that is specific to your, product. And if you do that correctly, it doesn't matter if you've got, like everyone thinks that you need like millions of them. You just need 100, 200, 300 who have 10 friends. Seriously, right? And then if they fall in love with yours, I guarantee you they're going to tell 10 friends and they're going to tell 10 more. It just starts to...
It's really like that. I don't know what it's called. It's like the 1,000 fans theory, where you have 1,000 hardcore lifelong fans that are your fans. And like, if they all feel like they want to give you $5 a month,
there you go.
That's all you need. You don't need 1 million fans. I mean, as far as monetary and whatever, but or to make a living, you need 1,000 hardcore fans that want to give you $5 a month.
Exactly. That's it. And this is where, it comes down to is a lot of people, they get hell-bent into all the hoopla of, get rich quick, or I need to make money tomorrow and all that stuff. And so they think that they need 1 million people and they start, they start spreading themselves thin. And they take all that energy or even their little budgets that they've got. Like if you've got $1,000 to market, if you're thinking, oh man, I need to put it everywhere. I need to get everybody. And, that's the biggest mistake. You're better off finding your exact target market and niche and spending, several $100s at a time and just boom, really targeting, really hitting on it so that you're getting these real solid users. And, it makes sense. I mean, if you look at what these bigger companies are doing with acquisition, they pay at least, $2, $3, $4, maybe $10 for a user, because they know that the lifetime value of that user is so much more, and they're just focusing on getting the right user in. So yeah,
less users, more value.
That's right.
All right, so let's look at the next piece then, because this to me is always an enigma as well. Your icon. How do you make your icon stand out?
So this is the biggest key here, and a lot of people skip it, and or they just. like if you are not an artist, hire an artist. If you are going to spend any time, this is the first thing that people generally see, right? Now, of course, inside of the Apple search, you also see some videos now too. So video has become a big thing because they'll see screenshots and the icon and the video at the same time. But it's still very important because the icon is the brand. It's like your logo. If anyone's seen Under Armour, right, you know that logo because it's being pushed around. Your icon becomes your brand logo. I mean, I could show you that icon for the different top apps, and I wouldn't even have to put a name on it. If I just showed you the character and that icon, you would instantly know what game it is, right? And this is the key there. One of the things that I've seen that has worked very well for me and for many others is choosing your main character. Take a main character, take their headshot, boom, right? And put in something like a weapon or something or whatever they're going to use if it's a game. Just like really zoomed in and focused. A lot of people, what they'll do is they'll make their icons too busy, all over the place, and people are shifting from that, right? If you can't see the icon, it's not clear, it's not crisp. Not only does it reflect a bad game in general, they'll see that you didn't try, right? And once again, going back to that whole idea of 1,000 games coming out in a day, and these guys have some bigger marketing budgets, and they've probably hired a graphic artist to make an incredible logo, and they've probably spent hours and hours and days making this thing and doing A/B testing. That's another part of it, right? Just because you think you got a logo that looks hot or amazing, it doesn't mean your user base will, right? So on top of just making a great looking icon, I'd say create several of them with several variations and then do a solid A/B test. And make sure it's your market too, right? The thing you could do is go and spend money on an A/B test, and it's like, oh, it was just generic people. You know what I mean?
Don't ask your family or friends.
Oh,
Yes,
God.
do not. No, that's.
No.
Oh my goodness, I like the pink color, but it's a first person. Yeah, but I think pink is gonna be a great game. No, it's not gonna be a great color for it.
And they'll
But,
just
at
tell
the
you,
end of the
oh,
day,
that
like,
looks good anyways.
yeah,
So-
well, I wouldn't even need the answer for that. Like, if someone brought me, let's say they said, pink would be a great color. To be honest, I don't know whether it's going to be a big color, a really good color. My user base will, and so I need to find that market and say, hey, you know what? I've got 100 of my potential clients, and these are the actual user base, and show them, several icons. All right, and people are like, oh, well, where do I find these people? How do I do it? Well, Facebook allows you to target market and really drill down. I'd say take $100, go on Facebook and do an A/B test. But there are other A/B test services out there, such as there's several of them. I don't have the links right now on the top of my head, but there are several of them which can find you your target market, and then you can do a proper A/B test and spend about $50 to $100 at least, right, to get a proper A/B test. It could save you thousands of marketing down the line, right? Just straight up.
It is. I mean, and it's very key because, and I'm kind of like the opposite. It's like the reason that the indie game business logo was what it was for so long is because it was easy for me to make. Or I think Andy made it, actually.
Yeah,
Didn't go to
I
you,
made
Andy?
it. I made
Yeah.
it. And
So
I
the-
am like
the
a
one-
super mediocre designer.
Well-
I can put stuff in Photoshop, but honestly, I'm a mediocre designer.
The Powell Group logo that we have was completely me in, I think, paint did it. I mean, it was that bad. And so I know what I'm good at and what I'm not good at. So when somebody, like Bradley at Role Play with Friends comes to me and goes, hey, I can make your logo better, I'm like, run with it. Yes, I know what I can't do. And that's one of the key parts of being, running a business in the first place. So it's understanding that aspect of it. So, you've got your icon. So talk to me about the next one while I go let her out. That's
Sounds good. So customer. All right. So this comes right back to what I've been, really harping on this whole entire time, which is you got to know your customer. You got to know who are your players, right? And so many mistakes happen because you don't know your customer. Whether, even the game that you're making or the app that you're making, if you do not know who your customer is, you'll end up making a game that has the wrong color schemes, that has the wrong gameplay involved, that has everything completely wrong with it, thinking that that's the customer base, right? So perfect example is if you know that the actual client base is, let's say, seniors, right? Or in fact, flip it, if you're making a game, kids, right? If you know it's children who are like, let's say 7 to 9 years old, all right, or heck, even younger than that, right? And some people make kids games, right? The point is, if you don't have colorful big buttons, kids are not going to figure it out, right? They're trying, they're still working with their mechanics, right? But the point is, so many times people are making that mistake. They are not checking out who their customer is, and so they're making designs that don't match. They're making icons and screenshots and all that don't match their client base, and then they're wondering, well, why are people not picking this up, right? And so it is very, very important that you know your customer. And the second, like the way you know that you're doing it wrong, if you say my customer is everyone, that's when that is the most dangerous thing I hear when anybody says, oh yeah, this is going to work for everybody. This is for everybody. It's not, right? And so what that tells me is you have not figured out who your client is. So if you aren't bothered to take the time to do that, unfortunately, when you're sitting down there and saying, well, why is my game or app, failing? It's because of that very reason, is that you didn't take the time to figure out who your real customer is. And, one way that actually helped me, if anybody wants help out there, is to build a persona. All right. It is a very simple marketing tool, very powerful, right? And you may have several personas, right? And so a persona is simply like, what does your customer look like? Okay. Is it male or female? Right? What's their age? What is their group? Right? Like at the end of the day, are they a whole bunch of professionals who go to the office on the train, or are they a whole bunch of students who are going to university? Right? Where are they in the world? Right? If, for example, if your user base is in China and you do not have anything written in Mandarin, you are making a big disconnect there, right? But if, let's say, your whole user base is, North American English speaking, then you want to target that, right? You want to target those. Perfect example is, FPS games, they do incredibly well in the United States, all right? And there's a lot of big followers who like, FPS games, but you could take the same game and put it in a different part of the world and it would completely suck. RPG games do so much better in the East than they do in the West, right? It's just the way it is, right? So this is a key there, is to understand who your customer is and understand where in the world you're going and build these personas out that will help you to define that even better.
All right. So we got a question in chat from Nightwolf. If you do not have the funds to hire someone, would your best bet be to learn what you do not know, or better run with what you got and try to get Patreon, Kickstarter, or GoFundMe to hire someone later on? And out of those, which is the best?
Okay, so I've done
Two-part question.
pretty much all of them. Okay, so I've done all of them. I've done Indiegogo, I've done Kickstarter, and all of that. And to be honest, they are full-time jobs, right? So like you are going to waste so much time doing a Kickstarter unless you've got a following that you know is coming. If you're just doing it on your own, listen, to be honest, no one's just going to come and say, oh yeah, I'm going to fund this thing. All right, they're just not going to do it like that. The best Kickstarters I've seen actually have a user base of people just coming in there and saying, yeah, I'm going to support this. All right. And, it is a challenge itself, right? You need to have something stellar for people to really say, oh, wow, I'm going to invest in this. And on top of that, it is the full-time gig to actually do that, because every day you need to update your Kickstarter. You need to update, your users inside of there. What's the new stuff that you've done? What are some of the things that were given away? It is really, really a big challenge. And then on top of that, marketing your Kickstarter or your Indiegogo campaigns, and then also avoiding all the scams out there. Because you've got a lot of people who be like scamming you as you're doing your Kickstarters and stuff like that, saying, oh yeah, I'll support you if you do this, or other things where, hey, guess what? I see you're running a Kickstarter for $50. I'll put it on my website or whatever, right? So, you get a lot of that. I would recommend not to do that. If you've got some money, yes, definitely hire an artist. Don't have money, like you said, then you could learn it. However, only if you've got time. I would actually recommend, listen, see if you can find some buddies, right? Do some trade-offs, right? At the end of the day, give someone credit in your game. Be like, listen, if this graphic artist is willing to do X, Y, Z, maybe they're a small graphic artist that just coming out of college, university. They're like, listen, I need to get my name out there, and you're like, hey, you know what? I'll put your name in credits. That's one way that you can get some bartered labor, right? That's one way. Hopefully that gives you an idea there. Another way is, you can get them as low as $5. You can go to Fiverr.com and get some ID, or even some basic graphics there. You can go to, what's the other one? Upwork. You can get some freelancers there. I mean, you can get things for like $100. So, to be honest, I would actually recommend if you could just bucks. I mean, that's how low you can get some of this stuff, right? And if you are really strapped for cash, uh, I mean, even if it takes you 2, 3 months, 4 months to save up $100, I mean, just do it, right? But don't. I would not recommend at all, wasting too much time if that is not your skill set. On your skill set, if it's making great games, then do that, right? But yeah, the biggest mistake I've done is trying to go outside of my skill set, unless I had time, right? I mean, I learned my stuff. I do learn artist stuff, right? But like Jay said, right? Like for what he had to do, he had to kind of like whip it together. Same thing. I'll whip stuff together, but it's not the final. I would still hire an artist, man. That's the best thing I can say. Hopefully that gives you an idea, yeah? And they do come cheap, right? I mean, you can find some cheap ones. I find in the Philippines, some incredible artists there for a great price. All right, so I mean, done too. Outsourcing is a whole different topic. I've done it all, so maybe another day they could bring me on board here to talk about outsourcing, which is a completely different beast on its own.
Yeah, outsourcing definitely has pros and cons that are different. And outsourcing overseas definitely has pros and
complete. Oh, it's a beast, I tell you.
And what makes it really fun is every version of outsourcing has its pros and its cons. We could do a whole nightmare show, on that.
But you do it. You know what? You do get what you pay for. That is true. Just roleplay with friends.
Yes.
Well, right.
You get what you pay for.
And to that point, though, to be honest, even if you pay cheap is that if you don't have the skills. Like, for example, I don't have any, top artist skills. Even cheap labor when it comes to artists, like at the end of the day, if I actually go down to the Philippines and get someone at a low price, they could still outdo me. They could do circles around me when it comes to art. And I would get something that is so much better than what I could have ever come up with at that low price. And that's fine. At least it gets me to the point where I get more users versus, a bad icon that's done, I lose out. And you only get like 10 seconds, 30 seconds max. That user just is scrolling through these apps and games, is scrolling through it. And if yours does not stand out, boom, they're going to be like, yo, I don't want to. A great example, a great way that you can actually check whether you've got a great icon is you go to Top App Charts. It's topappcharts.com. Let me just paste this in here. Topappcharts.com. Maybe if you could paste that over sort of thing. But basically, you go to like a site like that, and it'll list all 100 of the top apps sort of thing. Or you can go even to your app stores. Take a screenshot of the top 50 to the top 100. And then what you do is you take your icon and put it right in the middle, right? Pretend as if it's already on the store. How your icon looks compared to the top 50, all right? And if it's not something that, someone would click on or something that actually makes sense for your genre, then you really need work to do. So hopefully that gives some, ideas back on how you can work with that icon.
Several months ago, they changed the game icon for Fallout Shelter to Vault Boy looking to the right and yelling, because when Clash of Clans came out, that was their icon, was that Viking yelling or whatever at the side. And then so many companies replicated that for all their games. And so, it was kind of like a joke. It's like, hey, look, this is
then it doesn't
this is
stand
what
out
everybody's
anymore.
doing, so we're going to do it too.
Then it just doesn't stand out anymore.
Right, and that's why,
exactly.
you want to constantly, you want to do that a little exercise. So like every 3 to 6 months, just do that. Take the top 50 apps inside of one screenshot, and then take your icon and put it right there, and see how your icon looks compared to that. You don't want to go so different that it's like, not part of the genre, but at the same time, you want to be different enough that someone will be like, oh yeah, I'd like to click on this and check it.
So do you want to change your icon every once in a while, or?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You want to keep updating. I mean, your goal is to make it look good and get downloads. I mean, if you aren't doing that, then what ends up happening is you're missing out that opportunity of downloads. Like I've seen so many times where app developers or game developers, they'll take an icon and they just shifted it, just changed it, and all of a sudden they just doubled or tripled their downloads just because it was being found a little bit better.
Oh.
Right? It looked better.
You could do that as basic as like, swapping out background colors and things like that, as long as it, because you see that a lot, like at Christmas or, everything is all of a sudden green and red. In February, in November, everything turns pink for the Susan B. Komen Foundation for breast cancer. So it doesn't. You don't necessarily need an entirely new piece of art. You can do some fairly simple switches to get it in there.
And track it. That's the biggest thing. Is like, you know what? You made a switch on this date. Okay, track it, right? And track it throughout the year, because the switches that you do at certain points of the year may not be as powerful as different points of the year, right? Just like you're saying, right? Maybe the red and greens may work better in the Christmas time, whereas they might completely do horrible, right, during summer and stuff, right? But the point is, I can't tell you that. The only person who can tell you that is your users and the actual results that you're getting. So you have to check the data, you have to do the tests and see the results, right? And for every game and app, it's going to be different.
All right, so the top app charts didn't work, but I found this one. This one does. Appfollow.io. All right, so, and we've already covered this, but let's hit it because it's next in line. Yeah, customers. How do you know who your customers are?
Oh, wait, customers are keywords.
Oh wait. Let's get the response from Nightwolf first before we move on. Nightwolf says, "Thank you. I'm always wondering about the logo, thinking it must be perfect. Though I keep wanting to try and make an animation intro logo, yet my main issue is that I lack animation skills. Still, wow, I did not know how big of a job getting funding, marketing. That does really feel like would need some. Yeah,
you do. I mean, and there was an article recently, and I cannot remember where it was talking about the myth of the lone developer. And you do see a lot of, you see these success stories with Stardew Valley, for example. He did everything in that initial game launch himself, but his team has grown since then. That's not normal under any circumstances. What it took for him to do that over the course of 4 years was phenomenal. But 99.9% of the rest of us have to have help doing what we do.
Well, and this event that you guys are bringing out is actually, it is a great key point. I mean, you need to find the marketing people who actually know the stuff, who can actually take that expertise and use it to the next level, right? I definitely recommend connecting with that, right? Connecting with someone who actually this is their day job. This is what they do. This is what they eat, breathe, and sleep and live, right? Like I eat, breathe, and sleep. That's what I do. I create them, right? I love making them. That's what I love dreaming about. But you want to find someone who's just as passionate about marketing, because they're going to know stuff that you don't know, right? Like the stuff I'm talking about marketing right now, I had to learn through trial and error and making all these mistakes and losing thousands of dollars. So you're getting all this thousands of dollars worth of education right now for absolutely nothing, okay? Right? Well, actually, you know what? Make sure you follow. If you aren't a follower yet, at least follow along, right? But the point is, I mean, these guys are working really hard, bringing great information. It's hard to get this knowledge unless you've actually made those mistakes. I think Jay was talking about it before. In this industry, we have to make the mistakes to actually grow in this industry or something, right? It's something like that you had said earlier. But, you gotta understand, if you're not skilled in a certain area, then find the right team members to do so. That whole lone wolf idea, it is a romanticized idea, kind of like, the underdog idea in society. We're always like, root for the underdog. But the point is, you can't just do that in real life. You have to actually have some solid steps. You wouldn't go to the overweight person in the gym and say, how do I become ripped? You go to the person who's actually, you know what I mean? Like, you go to the person who's a trainer, right? Who's actually got results, right? And we see this even inside of like the regular industry. You wouldn't go to, the guy who's not making money to learn how to become a millionaire.
That's,
you go to the person who's a millionaire.
My mom, that's what my mom used to say. She would be like, you don't. Oh, thank you so much for the follow, Nightwolf.
There you go. See, there you go. That's right.
To learn how to get rich, you pay attention to people that are rich and you listen to their advice. You don't ask someone how to get rich. You don't ask the guy that lives under a bridge how to get, his opinions on getting rich. Even though everyone's opinion has value, but to a point.
It's the truth though. Like this is what so many people do is they'll go to the guy under the bridge and they'll say, make me a millionaire, and then then they don't become a millionaire. They're like, what happened, right? It's the same thing, right? When you're coming in to hear from experts and stuff like on these sorts of programs, understand that they've gone through a lot of different stuff and it's not easy to get. I mean, what these guys are doing is incredible. Jay and Indy, what you guys are doing is great. Just bringing us, people like us on to help out people. But understand that, this advice, this stuff that you're getting, I didn't just, wake up with it one day. I spent thousands of dollars. I made mistakes. I lost my shirt time and time again. I cried tears, and now I'm here bringing back those stories from like the battlegrounds, okay? And telling you, you know what? There are better ways. There are easier ways, and you know what? Some ways are just like they aren't easy, and you do have to do the work whether you like it or not. And so, like coming back to that whole marketing idea, yes, you will have to invest. I would recommend you go and save up some money, even if it's 100, 200, even if it costs you $500. Fine, save it up. You're better off saving it up and getting a good icon and screenshot or whatever it is, and making sure that you focus your time and energy on what you're good at. And for me, creating games, that's what I do. So that's where I focus all my energy on. Yeah.
So, this is just awesome. So on the keyword side, so how do you go and find the right keywords to use for your game, and how do you implement them?
Okay, so the keyword game, and it is a game at the end of the day, in my opinion. But basically, in the olden days, what you could do, and I mean, you could try and do this now, because basically Apple iOS had the biggest area where keywords are really, really big. Google Play really doesn't have a keyword thing. I mean, you could do it inside the description and title and all that, but you got to remember that Google side, whenever you're doing anything on Google Play, it's not just one search engine. There are 3 search engines, and people forget this. All right, Google. When you go on the Google Play Store, it's not just searching the Google Play Store. It's searching Google. It's searching YouTube as well for your gamer app. Right. So you want to have videos made. You want to have your keywords also inside of, let's say, blogs and stuff, and your actual links for Google Play inside of there. So when you're doing keywords, it's very unique how they used to do it. I don't know if it still works. You can try it though, and who knows? It could work now. But on Apple side, what ends up happening is you have 100 characters, and you want to search your competitors. And there's several different sites that you can go to, which will give you what your competitor keywords are as well, and also what is the stuff that they're typing in. Now, in today's day and age, what I do is I actually will go to my user base, and I will actually say, hey, you know what? If you were looking for a game like this, what would you type in? And kind of get those keywords. You can actually start typing inside of Apple iOS. So like I've got an iPhone here right now, and if I actually go into the App Store and I type in, let's say, the first keywords of my game, it'll actually start listing the other games that are there, right? So for example, if I just type in the word Clash, right? The top listing right here is Clash of Clans, Clash Royale, Clash Royale with a L, not an E at the end, Clash of Royale, Clash of Clans, right? So the point is, it's already telling you some of the things that you can put inside of there. Now, of course, be careful with that. You can't be putting in other brands, but keywords, if you can pick up certain keywords out of them, you could. Now, in the Apple side,
doesn't Google Ads do that to you? Because that's how we used to do stuff. We go to Google Ads, and then you type it in, and it tells you the percentage of people that are searching for this or that or whatever.
Exactly. So, and 100%. So use those sorts of tools to kind of get an idea of some of the keywords, and also think from your brand, right? What is your user going to type in, and see if that makes sense as well. But the biggest thing is the way we used to do ASO, and this was, these were the keyword tricks that we would do, is on the Apple side, and I can specifically speak of Apple side here. You've got 100 characters there, and that's in US English. Keep this in mind. And so what we would do is we would say, okay, you know what? Rather than putting spaces after the commas, put no spaces. That'll get you at least another 10 more characters, which means another keyword that could come at the very end. Then the next thing is, instead of just US English, now use the translations. So you can now go and put Australian English, UK English. They're still English, right? And now you put, that's like 400 keywords now you got inside of there. And then on top of that, if you know that your market is in the United States, do Spanish as well. So now you've got 5 different areas. And now inside of the Spanish side, you're also getting another set of keywords. So that's 500 keywords that you can use right there. And that's a cool little trick that has been used for a long time. You could give that a shot. That's a keyword. That's like a keyword thing. Now, speaking of, Google had this thing where you could put in 5 keywords description and it would kind of rank it a little bit better. But of course, that has changed over time. I would just recommend, having a good basic set of keywords, not too many of them, and just don't make your whole entire description about keywords, but be real and factual. What are people going to be reading? And understand that keywords don't work the way they used to, anymore. So if you're trying to do this stuff and be like, oh man, I'm going to be ranked at the top, no, it still comes back down to money, man. At the end of the day, to be honest, the people who are spending the money are the ones who are making it. And one nice thing they did bring out was their new Apple Ads program. You can do the basic ad system, and now your app will be right at the top, but you are bidding on it, right? And so it is a different play right now that's going on. But once again, it comes down to those who are spending money are going to make it, and those who aren't, well, you need to have a following if you're going to make it. But that's the reality of today's day.
This is just fantastic. All right, so we're getting close to time to wrap up anyway, but we've still got a couple other points to hit. So after we've gone over keywords, and so screenshots and video. How do I go? I mean, it sounds obvious. You want screenshots and videos, but how do you go about creating ones that pop and doing it well versus just sitting down and playing your game for 20 minutes and recording it and posting it?
Right. You basically need to sell the sizzle. I mean, this is the whole entire key there. When in the iOS store now, people will see videos and the actual screenshot, right? If you can have a video, boom, amazing, and only sell the sizzle, right? Make it look, make it pop, make it amazing. When you're seeing your game, for example, have the battle scenes, right? Those are huge, right? And put that as part of your video, because people are like, how am I going to experience this thing? When it comes to your screenshots specifically, put in use cases, like actual usage. Make people feel like they are the ones using it, and use your personas. Listen, at the end of the day, if you know that the target is teenagers and they generally happen to be male teenagers, have a teenage male playing inside of the actual device, and have like a first person view, like, hey, I'm looking at my device, I'm seeing my screen, and I look like a teenager, right? If that is my persona, if that is my target market, because they're going to see that and they're going to be like, wow, that could be me, right? But if, for example, you've got like, the target market is teenagers, but you've got like an old person who's sitting there playing and can barely move with a stylus or something, like that is going to be a disconnect. And so if a teenager sees that, and the target market is teenagers, they're like, I'm not an old person. Why am I? You know what I mean? But I've seen that disconnect happen, and people have done that. Well, they take a stock image of, a person who does not match the target market. Like, for example, I've seen, and this happens all the time. You'll have like your target market is a group of males who are, let's say, 20s, and then you've got, females who are inside of the image. And as much as we want to be politically correct, it's not business correct. And so what ends up happening is you don't see the success because you aren't hitting the right market. Now, no issue if the actual app that you've got is for, the female market, but that's fine, right? Then you would get that in. But if your user cannot see themselves using that app inside of a screenshot, then they are less likely to download, right? And so this is the key here. Like, for example, I saw, a perfect example where you would use, female as a persona is in the menstrual app, right? It was a menstrual, and boom, you see a female sitting there and, she's calculating stuff, and that actually made sense, right? Can you imagine if I put like a male sitting down inside of that, right? Just took a stock image of a male sitting down and looking at that, it would be a very big disconnect. And this is why it comes down to the whole customer. Understand your customer, right? If you've got a kids game, have some kids inside of there playing it and having fun, and see them having fun, right? This is the key that I want everyone to remember when you're doing this. Please make your screenshots as use cases, right, that they would use. Make sure your target market is inside of there, and put them inside of screens. I think that's actually the best thing, rather than just, hey, I just took a screen grab, because anyone could do a screen grab, but it really doesn't show people how they would use it in their life. Does that make sense?
You need to explain what it is. You see very few of the screenshots now that are just simply a screenshot. They usually have something overlaid on top of it, so know what they're showing. You could be showing some awesome, part of your game, but if it's not clear what that is, then it's not going to convey well. I mean, you may know what it is, but you're always your own worst core audience, because you always know exactly what's going on. You know, and I have people ask me, like, you've been doing this 20 years, like, what was your favorite game to play that you worked on? And I'm like, literally none of them, because I love the games that I've been able to be a part of. But quite frankly, after you follow a game like all the way through development, I'm tired of it. You know, it's like, I've already seen this. I've already played all this over and over. You know, so it because you're that close to it, you can't see, you know, what everyone else sees. You know, and so that's why it's always good to say, okay, look at your key features and your key, you know, your unique selling points. And again, having multiplayer is not a unique selling point. That's a feature. But, you know, if you can have your screenshots, you know, key off of each one of those and say, look, it's a bullet hell shooter and it's different because of this. And then that screenshot shows that you've done well. You know, you've gotten it. So, all right. So if anyone else has questions on how they need to be optimizing their app store pages, their Steam store pages, you know, Discord, Epic, everywhere that we say that you need to be selling your game in the first place. If you have questions, pop them up now. You know, we got just about 10 more minutes and then we're going to have to roll on out. Thanks for the follow, Unseen. You know, in the meantime, so what is your favorite game right now that you're playing, Nav?
Oh yeah, it's God of War. Well, yeah, Fortnite too. Yeah, of course. I'm playing Fortnite as well. I mean, in a week's time, I'm playing, StarCraft 2. I'll be playing Hearthstone, League of Legends, Overwatch, Fortnite. But like, those are games where I actually play them from the eyes of a developer on my Twitch channel. So I kind of like take people through that whole entire thing where they see it from the eyes of a developer, some of the top games. And then for me, my relaxation game where I just sit down, I'm just like, I'll just play this. I can play this all day. It is God of War. To be honest, like I'll just sit down. It's like watching a movie. I'm having fun, and like, oh my goodness, like when I do my attacks and stuff, it's like, wow, right? And the only other games that have done that for me have been like Final Fantasy back in those days, and Zelda and stuff like that. Those have been really, really like my areas that I really love. You know.
Do you have a favorite console? Yeah, or a favorite gaming platform?
That is a good question. Honestly, really, there was one which I'd say out of all of them I really had a lot of fun with. That was Nintendo 64, where we would sit down and play GoldenEye as groups of friends. We would just come in play GoldenEye. But other than that, I really didn't really have one that was per se the best in my opinion. But the most fun were the Nintendo consoles. They've always been the most fun. Like I could just like sit down with a Nintendo console with a whole bunch of friends and we just go crazy. And even the games, they're just fun, you know, like that's one thing that I like. And if it came down to like graphics, PS4, like PlayStation, Sony has been incredible with the PlayStation side. I'm not that much of an Xbox fan, even though I have Xbox. But whenever I played Xbox, it was more like either I'd play Gears of War, which was another big shooter story style game, or Halo, of course, people play that. Or I play with my kids and we do Just Dance sort of thing, you know. And as a game developer, the Xbox actually had it because of the camera. You can actually take that camera and you can convert it into Unity 3D animation points. So you can actually do motion capture with that camera. It's just a cool little hack that you can do. So yeah, that's how I do mocap.
I remember when that first started and you had to have 4 of those cameras.
Yeah.
Now it's just like pretty soon it's just going to be just a regular camera on your phone.
Yeah.
It's not going to have a camera. It's just going to scan your body image when you stand in front of it.
Oh yeah, exactly. That's already. Oh man, I've actually worked with some of that technology. Oh man.
All right. Well, now, thank you so much because this has been fantastic. We're absolutely going to have you back.
Oh, thank you.
Aren't following him already? It's twitch.tv Academy of Games. Is that
0
two closed parentheses or is that a 0?
0.
0. What ended up
0.
happening was someone else took Academy of Games, so I had to put the 0 at the end of it.
Academy of Games exclamation mark.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Working with the keywords here, right? Title. There we go.
Game Academy of Games.
Academy of Games 0.
We did flashcards for the Kindle e-ink system.
Oh.
years
There you
ago.
go.
And so your app may have been one of the ones that we were looking at as a feature comparison way back then.
That's funny.
So that's fantastic. All right, so we are going to be back on Friday. We've got Jason De La Roca, the suspended, the moved show from last Friday when, you know, my son didn't have strep yet did have strep. And so he's going to be here on Friday talking about funding, both for your studio in terms of equity funding and project funding for, you know, specific games. And Jason's done this for a very, very, very long time, and he knows, he is one of the preeminent pitch experts when it comes to, you know, getting your game in front of the right people. So he's going to be here on Friday. Don't forget to go to indiegame.business and get your ticket for the micro conference that's coming up in, you know, April 14th or 15th and 16th. It's a Monday and a Tuesday. We're going to have a lot of publishers, PR companies, influencers, you know, all the folks that you need to meet to make your game successful are going to be there. You don't have to know them beforehand. That's why we're doing this. We're going to match you up with them. You'll be able to see who you want to talk to and reach out to them directly. Indy, anything?
Well, we have a latecomer question. If you want to answer the question, is it better to put a game on Google Play or the Apple Store? I heard that Apple Store is very difficult to get into. Plus, they have their own version of C programming.
Okay, so basically on the two different markets, you can use a middleware tool like Unity 3D. I'm a Unity 3D live expert, where you code once and it works in both markets. Now, the thing is, on the Apple side, you're going to be paying a fee of about $100 or so per year to get access to, you know, to be able to sell on their market. On Google Play, it's $25 one time. And the thing is, at the end of the day, you do need to have a Mac in order to upload to the App Store. Now, there is, you know, services like Mac and Cloud and, you know, others like that, which if you don't have a Mac and you're just, you know, really tight on cash, you can use that, or you can go up to another friend's place sort of thing and use a Mac. But the point is, you need to have a Mac in order to push those games and apps to the store. However, you're going to understand very quickly over time that people spend more money on the Apple side than the Play side. Google Play is very good when it comes to advertising, but people are more inclined to just, you know, copy your games off of there or use them, you know, for free pretty much. I mean, that is pretty much a market, unless you've got a big marketing budget. What we will see is a lot of people will start off on the Apple side. They'll create a really good polished product and then launch it to the Android side over time once they've got a solid following and they know that they can actually generate revenues. Now, either way, if you're an indie just starting out, if cash is tight, I would recommend starting off on the on the Google side and getting your game out there, because you could be approved in 4 hours and, you know, there's a lot less restrictions on you. That gives you an idea to, you know, start building a market and a following and kind of get some feedback. But then understand that it is going to be a solid investment to go into the Apple side. But if you do it right, Apple does make more money in general, because people buy it more because of their whole ecosystem is set up like that, right? You know, people have already got their credit cards on. They, you know, when people are buying gifts, they're buying iTunes gift cards, right? So it's so much easier as a platform to actually generate revenues than it is on the Google Play Store. I mean, I don't see too many people, even though there are people who do buy the Google Play cards, but they generally don't. It's like, hey, download on Android, everything's free on Android. And then on top of that, because it's such an open ecosystem on Android, people can actually copy APKs, which is another challenge. Download the APK, then just copy it from one device to another. And so, you know, that does set up a bit more of a challenge. On the other middle route, which is kind of in the middle of between both worlds, if you really want something which is kind of like the Apple of the Android world, I'd say it's Amazon, literally, where you'll be able to make some solid cash flow and be in the Android world. And so one of the nice things you could do is use a middleware tool like Unity, make a great game with some ads or whatever you want to monetize, then build an APK file, which you would put on both Google Play and Amazon. And Amazon is free to become a developer, I believe, as well. And boom, now you've got two markets, and people do spend money on Amazon. So hopefully that helps out, okay? And you can save some money there. But when you're ready to go to iOS side, then you're going to have to spend some money for sure. I mean, I've got Macs over here as well. That's how I do it. Yeah?
This is how we do it.
That's how we do it.
It annoys me to no end that, you know, Apple does that you have to own a Mac to
Oh,
upload to. It's just
it's a
asinine.
pain. It's a pain in the butt. And I've, the biggest word of advice I can give everybody, if you've got a Mac and if you're developing, do not upgrade. Okay, what's gonna happen is, and I've been through this so many, lost thousands of dollars because Apple was playing this little game where they upgrade, the Xcode. Then they're like, okay, you want to use this Xcode? Well, now you have to download the latest OS. All right. Well, once I download the latest OS, all right. Well, guess what? Sorry, this OS is not compatible or whatever with this Mac. So you need a new Mac to get the new OS in order to get the new Xcode. So guess what? You have to go in and buy a new Mac.
Oh,
right?
God.
Yes.
Oh, they do that. I've had to buy new Macs, new iPads, new iPhones, all because of this little game of upgrades, right? And so it's like, man, if I had just not upgraded, I could have gotten through, had my app up, right?
What a
So
pain.
just be careful on that, okay? Be very careful before you upgrade. Do I really need to upgrade in order to launch my app? If so, fine. Then you have no choice. But if you can avoid it, that's what I do. I've learned my lesson by thousands of dollars myself. So, yeah, just be careful.
And Scary Robot says the Unity app, the iOS project builder, lets you upload iOS builds from your PC.
Yeah, you could do that, but the challenge becomes, of course, you need Xcode still, because there's going to be times where you need to put certain SDKs in, which may not be working with Unity, right? Depending on what SDK you're trying to put inside of there. If it's a brand new ad company that's coming in with brand new ad revenue, they may not have a Unity plugin yet, right? And if that's the case, well, then you have to do it through the Xcode, and they'll follow all the instructions. It might say, hey, you know what? You got to put this in or that in, all the different SDKs that they got inside of there. So they'll have that step-by-step system. So you do have to go sometimes as well. And even to actually get your app in, you'll still need to have a Mac, right, of some kind, even just doing the uploads and so on. And one of the biggest challenges is, especially if you've got a game, is getting some of that data back, right? And so you can actually create a compiled version of the app, which is going in with all of the symbols, I believe. And so when it actually comes back, it'll report that code to you, so you know exactly where in the code it is, rather than getting a whole bunch of assembly code back, if that makes sense, right? So, I've found that it actually alleviates many more challenges than it does just going PC only. You definitely need a Mac, in my opinion, if you're serious about the business. But if you're just like, hey, you know what, 1 off, 2 off, that's fine. You could do that. But as your game grows and this becomes a real business for you, I'd recommend just go get a Mac, and we have to bite the bullet in the Apple if you're serious about it. It's just the way it is.
It's like you can't do the business stuff, without taking it seriously. That's it's always the downside.
Yeah, it's the thing, man. I have to tell you, right? It's like, this is a real business, right? For me, it's a real business. But if you want to just get 1 or 2 apps out, you could do it like that. But if you're serious, if you're taking care of your users, you're updating constantly. There are going to be updates every single, between the first quarter inside of the year. Apple has their WWDC where they some of the latest stuff that's going on, and you'll learn about the latest operating system. You have to prep for that, and then come September time, the latest products come out, and that's when all this stuff. And those are the times when things will bugger up on you. All right, those are times where I've had to buy an iPad or a Mac or whatever, not because I wanted to, but because I was forced to in order to launch my app again.
What a pain.
Yeah,
that's the way the industry goes.
Yeah.
And don't worry, everything's going to be outdated in another year anyway, so you get to do it all over again.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Nav. Well, thank you so much. If you want to chat with Nav, you've got other questions, go to our Discord. We'll pop a command in here real quick. There you go. You can find him there. You can find us there. You can find everyone, answer your questions. You can always, if you've got questions for an upcoming show, send me a message in there. Drop me an email. My email's at the bottom of this page. That's it for today.
Thank you so
guys.
much, guys. Thank you.